Well, hello. This is a pen that I have had out for a while. Been keeping it secret, saving it for a rainy day, and that rainy day never came. So it's finally time for the big unveiling of the Nakaya Decapod. If videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens at all price points, both new and old, I would invite you to subscribe. And if you'd like to comment on the Nakaya or live mummification, which will come up in this video, please feel free to leave a comment down below. So let's take a look at the pen. Well, first of all, I bought this pen actually last winter. I had thought about it for a long time. I almost bought it in fall of 2017, but then changed my mind at the very last minute. And just kind of sat on the cash, because it's a lot of cash for a pen. Is it worth it? Well, we'll take a look at it. We'll learn its story. I'll be honest, I can't justify buying this pen, but I sure like it a lot. So let's take a look at what makes it the pen that it is. I have my facts over here, so I remember everything I need to say. I will say, first of all, this pen rarely gets out of the living room. It basically stays in one corner of the living room where I sit, and that's where it remains, because I don't want anything to happen to it. Kind of a longish pen, very light pen. I was surprised when I got it how light it is, but it kind of makes sense. Definitely has a very different feel from European luxury pens, just because it's so lightweight. And, some people don't like this, but it's a cartridge converter pen. I like, and it's made out of ebonite, so I guess it would be. Now, I like this Urushi lacquer. After I give you a chance to see how this writes, we'll talk a little bit about how they're made and how they get to be this cost. There is a Decapod, just plain, oops, there's some dust. Just plain old Decapod, which is not twisted like this, so you pay a little bit more to get it twisted. But I fancy it. I think it's beautiful. Because of the many layers of Urushi, this is a Heki Tamanuri finish, which is green and brown. On every little sharp edge, the color from below stands out. And over time, this pen should age and take on a different appearance. So we'll see. Even the threads are lacquered. We'll get to the little bit of kanji there. It does have a platinum feed and nib. Now, yes, the nib does say Nakaya, but it's a platinum nib. How do I know? Well, first of all, Platinum owns Nakaya. Nakaya's a subsidiary. I'll get into that. But, look. Just look. They're the same. The nibs are the same. In fact, I picked this specific pen because that's how I knew what nib I wanted. I have a lot of platinum pens. I'm doing this video instead of my platinum video because there's a few things I want to do with the platinum video that are going to take a little more time. But I knew because of my platinum collection, I wanted a soft, fine nib. And that's what I got. There was no question in my mind about it. Get back to the kanji there. It has a platinum converter in it. It'll take platinum cartridges. In fact, my platinum video, somebody mentioned, you must have gotten an expensive pen if it came with 10 platinum cartridges. Yep, this was it. But it's never had platinum ink in it. It's always been, actually I don't remember what all I've put in it. Right now it's Sailor Gentle Epinard, even though they're a competitor. I love the detail that even the threads have this Urushi. Now let's talk about the kanji. When I unveiled this last week for my pens in use, I expressed that, I was really disappointed that I couldn't get the kanji that I sent. Because I wanted it to say squirrel. This second character here is part of squirrel. Squirrel in Chinese, by the way, is songshu, and I think we all know that it's a Japanese pen, so why would they do Chinese? Well, the kanji is Chinese characters. That's part of their writing system. They also have two other writing systems. I don't remember what they're called. One starts with an H. Don't know much about the Japanese language, to be honest. But the first character was not. And I was very, very disappointed by that. And I wanted to complain. But then I thought, why? On a custom pen like this, is there anything they can really do about it? And I thought, at least maybe I've got moving the microphone so you can hear me better. At least maybe I've got a little bit of a story I can tell. I don't know. But I was reassured that this does say squirrel. It's just a little bit stylized calligraphy. So I am relieved on that score that I have squirrel, because that's what I wanted. I'll try to remember to throw my own what I'd requested up here, but keep in mind that you can see the word squirrel. That's my avatar here on YouTube. So you've looked at it, you've drooled over it. Let's see how it writes. Before I show you how it writes, I'm just going to mention one little thing. This is the benefit of its shape. It's not easily going to roll off a table. Not saying it won't, but it won't easily. And I just missed a whole section of my outline, and I just noticed it. Why bother outlining if I don't look at it, right? But I think you know by now that I write my outlines, I don't always use them. It arrives in this box. I'm kind of keeping it sideways because my camera focus thing. Nakaya Decapod Cigar Twist. Oh, that's where I bought it from. It arrives, in a nice, somewhat decorative kind of box thing. It looks like when they boxed it up, they accidentally got a little ink smeared there. Inside, the pen came in this this wood case. Very light wood case. With, hopefully it doesn't say stupid gullible American on the front. It just pulls off. It has a nice little squishy. Inside, the pen lays in this kind of velvet bed. The cartridges were in there too, but they've been taken out. And of course, this nice pen kimono, which now can be returned upstairs where it belongs to protect my pen from damage during the day, which I don't know how to get damaged, but doggone it. And if this pen ever travels, it's going to have this extra layer of protection. Because I spent way too much on this pen. This bamboo case, or why do I keep saying it's bamboo? I'm pretty sure it's not. Well, I take that back. I think it is bamboo. But I don't know that. I'm just guessing. There are other types of sources of wood in Japan than bamboo. Now, we're to the part of my outline, which is to review the pen. My ink, I know it's a competitor, but I love this ink. I actually really only like one of Platinum's inks. I don't know, I take that back. I like their citrus black inks. But this ink is such a natural fit for this pen. And I love the ink, Sailor Gentle Epinard. As far as flex, now, this is not a flex pen. This is a soft, fine pen. Soft means, yes, you can get some line variation without a lot of pressure, but it does not mean it's a flex pen. Wetness and flow, typical of a Platinum. Supposedly, Nibs.com does some fine-tuning and adjusting before they send the pens out. I will take their word for it. But yeah, has no problem keeping up. The smear test, which is sometimes a test of the ink, as much as it is of the pen. Pretty wet. I actually did want to use this pen for writing, not for decorative fancy stuff, so I didn't want it too wet. And reverse writing. Yeah, not bad. Now I'm going to add an extra test because somebody's going to ask. I'm going to show you how the platinum performs here. Pressure. No pressure. Okay. And then beside it, admittedly it has Mont Blanc black in it for my upcoming platinum video, because yeah, I used up all my platinum cartridges the first time. So not quite apples to apples, but close enough. I think we're seeing pretty similar performance here though. But I just was reminded one of the irritating things about this pen. You have to line it up properly when you cap it, or else it caps misaligned. There it's correctly aligned, incorrectly, for whatever that's worth. Now, let's resume our regular show where I do a quote. And I'm going to, because I like this pen so much, I'm going to do 2 quotes about art. And I usually speed these quotes up, but because I spent so much money on this pen, you're just going to watch it write in real time. I don't know why I put a period after his name, but I have to say that good sense did not prevail in buying this pen. As much as I enjoy it, it is hard to really justify it. I think if I'm going to write it this narrow, I can zoom in on it a little more. I apologize. I just happened to look at the screen. One more thing before I leave here, I'll do the Peer Gustafson test, which is something I started doing as a result of a collaborative video I did with that reviewer a few months ago. Oh, a little railroady there. But on the whole, I think this is keeping up very well. You don't always see this notebook. A lot of times I've got all the details up here, but I don't this time. So, because I'd planned, honestly, to film a platinum video, and this is going to be next week. But you'll see when I get to the platinum video why I ultimately chose this one first. It's just a little more labor intensive than I originally thought it was going to be. So, first of all, Nakaya does not have a long history, but the craftsmanship in the company does. And let me tell you why this makes sense. Go back 20 years ago, mid-1990s. Hey, I was graduating high school, 1994. Which tells you how young I am. But anyway, the fountain pen industry was starting to fear that email and faxing, faxing was still quite a thing back then, were going to take over, and the fountain pen industry would die off. More and more companies were switching to mass-produced pens. I'm going to switch back to the camera for a second. The Platinum 3776 is a mass-produced pen. Very nice pen, but it's mass-produced, stamped out, injection molded, all that. Nakaya went in the opposite direction. They moved into craftsmanship and art, which seemed like the wrong way to go when fountain pens are going to disappear. There won't be a demand for them. Well, we know what's happened since then. We know that the demand has steadily increased year after year. Nakaya was fortunate enough to see that, or gamble on it, or maybe they even created the market. Who knows? Nakaya was actually created by, and I apologize again, I do not know Japanese, Toshiya Nakata, grandson of the founder of Platinum, Shunichi Nakata. Toshiya, I'm going to go with Toshiya, I like that better. Toshiya left banking at 29 in the mid-1990s to learn the family business, because his father, Toshihiro Nakata, was then the president of Platinum. But during this time, several of the craftsmen who worked for the company announced their retirement. And Toshiya realized that this is an irreplaceable loss of valuable skills. Several of these craftsmen had been brought back, even though they were retired a few times, to do work at Platinum because they had these irreplaceable skills. So what he did is he got them to return to the fountain pen world by creating Nakaya as a subsidiary of Platinum. In fact, one of my links in the video description is to the Nakaya website, and you can look on the Nakaya website and find the craftsmen who make these pens. These are, and I'm sorry, they're all men, but these are the men who made this pen. So I know who they are. That's pretty cool. They make about 1,500 pens a year, and interestingly, 75% of those pens are sold outside Japan. Now, I had the idea that it was mostly a Japanese thing, and just lately Europeans and Americans were jumping in on it, but I don't know, it probably started as just a Japanese thing, but that was just interesting and a surprise to me. I honestly didn't realize it would be that big of a market outside Japan. Each pen takes about 2 months to make, and I can bear that out. From the time I placed my order, it took me a long time till I got any response, and one of the questions was about the kanji, because I wanted it on the cap, and they said, no, with the Decapod you can't do that. And by the way, you can't have a clip either. Fine. But 2 months. So why does it take 2 months? And it was more than that for me to finally get the pen. Like, I had kind of forgotten about ordering it, because 2 months to make it. Well, there's also, I'm going to guess this takes a little longer just because of the shape. But there's also the backlog while they're finishing other pens. So, it was more like, 5 months before I got it from the time I placed the order. Keep that in mind if you order one, especially if you go for one of the less common models or one of the more popular ones. Like, I think the dorsal fin model, they're not taking orders on that at all right now. Just looking at the time I have left on that battery. So, better get scooting here. What they do is they start with an ebonite body, and you'll see a lathe operator as one of the people. So it's a handmade body. Obviously, some machining done on this to make it this shape. But then they put many, and that's why it's so lightweight, by the way, is the ebonite. But then they put many coats of Urushi lacquer on it. Now, Urushi is the sap of an Urushi tree, and there was a complicated name in my link. you can try and pronounce it, I won't. But interestingly, the sap has the same oil as poison ivy, and most of us have experienced poison ivy to know how much fun that is. Clearly not a problem as the Urushi is purified and so on. But it's filtered, pigments are added, and then it solidifies as it absorbs moisture from the air. Each layer is buffed to a high sheen. Now, I couldn't find how many layers are applied, but it's lots of them. It takes about 2 months to apply all the layers and buff them. And that's what makes it so labor intensive. And they have to be careful. I mean, you screw up and that was a waste. It's a very tough coating, but takes a lot of time to make it. Now, when I said live mummies, apparently in some Buddhist sects in Japan, there was a process of live mummification. You can read the link about it. Basically, they would starve themselves, eat just berries and fruit and whatever. But then, kind of in the final process, they would drink this Urushi tea and then lock themselves into a tomb. They had a bamboo straw coming out of it so they could breathe, and a bell so they'd let people know whether they're alive. But the Urushi tea would coat their insides, dry them out, and make it so maggots wouldn't eat their body. And then they had to be left in this stone tomb for 1,000 days while the mummification process took place. And apparently there's about 24 of these been found, which to me is screaming cask of Amontillado, which is a... I don't know. Not me. Never. I'm not locking myself in a tomb, and that's one of my terrors of death, is getting locked somewhere and can't escape. But anyway, a little piece of trivia there. There are converters. I did not buy one, although I may at some future date, available from Nakaya with art painted on them. It's kind of like you're all dressed up in your nice business suit, and underneath you're wearing Mickey Mouse underwear. Kind of that sort of idea. Because who's going to know? Unless I open up the pen and say, look, tadpoles, squirrels. Hey, maybe they do have squirrel art. I'll have to look for that. But all of that said, sorry, looking at the time again, getting nervous. Is it worth it? Is it worth paying many more times than that for really the same nib? I did a whole video on that on my IGTV channel. You've seen it. Some of you don't like the vertical format that IGTV requires. But the short version is, when you buy a Nakaya, the writing experience is about the same. I think the Nakaya is a little more comfortable to hold, but that could be all up here. But the main thing is you're paying for the art. You're paying for the craftsmanship. You're paying for a unique piece of art. It's not mass-produced. This was made by hand. That's why it's expensive. Now, is it worth it to you? I don't know. People spend a lot of money on paintings. My mother hand does... I don't have any down here because it's the basement. But my mother crochets a lot. She used to do cross-stitch, but her eyes, she can't really do cross-stitch anymore. You know, it's all this painstaking, crafted stuff. You know, my grandmother painted ducks. See, that's showing up. It fell off the wall a little while ago, and I'm working on fixing the frame. But the point is, that's art. Art takes a lot of forms. I know my two quotes were about paintings, but there's a lot of forms of art. My form of art, let's see here, seems to be photography, and I do see photographs, but I don't want to get up and get them. So you can look at my photography website if you're interested. Seem to do a lot of sports photography lately, because guess what I'm going to do after this video's done? But the art, you know, it takes time. And that's what you're paying for with this pen. And you may not appreciate that at a glance, especially if it's just a solid Urushi over it, and you're just like, okay, red Urushi, that's... Well, then you start studying it, and you realize how much artistry goes into that. I really thought I had enough battery left there. But anyway, you're paying for art. And it's hard to put a value on art because it is so subjective. One picture may just... and to somebody else, they look at it and say, huh, lady has no eyebrows. Talk about the Mona Lisa. So it's an extravagance, it's a luxury, and I guarantee another Nakaya is far, far off in my future, because can't do that every year. But I'm glad I did. I very much enjoy the pen. I write with it quite often. I waited to do this grand unveiling because I really just wanted to do a special video, but then it never seemed like I could get it right, like I could do justice to this pen. And finally, in a week when I wanted to do my platinum video, but couldn't do justice to that either, I thought, it's time. So here it is. Know that it's usually inked up. It will not appear in pens in use most weeks. Kind of like the Lamy 2000, I realize people want to see other pens. But it's there, and I'm sure it will pop up from time to time, just to reassure you that nothing has happened to it. So, if videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens at all price points, including this price point, please, I would invite you to subscribe. And if you'd like to comment on Nakaya, Urushi, or the mummies, live mummification, please feel free to leave a comment down below. And perhaps you have some thoughts on art. So as always, I thank you for watching. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.